Matthew Howett is telecoms analyst at Ovum, joins me now. So Matthew, what precisely did BT do wrong here?
Essentially, it comes down to the compensation that they were due to pay the alternative operators who rely on that infrastructure when things didn't quite go to plan. And BT has a sort of loophole where they could get out paying some compensation if it's forces outside of their control, for example, the weather. But it was found that some of the compensation due was being wrongly booked as this kind of event when it wasn't actually the case.
Yeah, I gather there was one incident where an engineer couldn't cross the field because he'd left his boots at home or something.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's been a bit of a torrid time for BT, not only with this news, but also more generally recently with regards to fines coming from Ofcom. There was one just last week for its PlusNet division, £800,000. But of course, there was also the big accounting scandal in Italy, which cost it much more in terms of the damage to the share price and reputation.
Well, exactly. I mean, is the gloss coming off Gavin Patterson's reign a bit? Because, I mean, he's been held in pretty high esteem by investors and shareholders until now.
I think arguably Gavin would be under the spotlight much more if Ofcom and BT hadn't reached that agreement from a couple of weeks ago about the future of the Openreach division. There is now at least a kind of clear path to how some of those reforms can be put in place, including, as I think Gavin said, around the people and the processes. Had they not got that in their favour, and if that had ended up very differently, then I think we would have seen perhaps people calling for his head.
As you say, something like £300 million in compensation payments now due to competitors. Even for a big company like BT, that is going to hurt. I mean, should heads be rolling here? And if not, Gavin Patterson, then whose?
To be fair, I think probably the heads have already rolled. This is something that happened back in 2013, 2014. Openreach has seen two new chief executives in that time, and it could even end up with a new one depending on exactly how the reformed body looks like. I think the important thing is now they mark a line in the sand with regards to the historical performance of Openreach, and they focus much more on improving service for the alternative operators. You know, Ofcom has got a very watchful eye on this, and it is not going to let it drop.
So you don't think that culturally there's anything too amiss at Openreach?
I don't think so, and I think some of the other things that we've seen, particularly in relation to, example, the stuff that was happening in Italy, was well outside of the Openreach division. Yes, there have been problems with customer service, and this falls into that bucket, but it's something that Ofcom is working with BT to address, and they're happy with the reforms that they've committed to.
Now, Ofcom were making great play today, the fact that this is their biggest ever fine, £42 million, but I mean, BT's a company that made nearly £3 billion in profits last year. Its revenues this year will be nearly £25 billion. I mean, it's still a bit of a flea bite, isn't it?
It's true that it's small perhaps in relation to profits, but it is 10 times bigger than any fine that Ofcom have levied in the past. And one of the things that we've seen is Ofcom is getting much sort of stronger teeth. It's going after companies where they see a weakness. So we might expect bigger fines in the future. Of course, also, though, the $300 million that they have to pay back in compensation is much bigger than the original fine. And I think generally the damage to the reputation and brand, coupled with all of the other things that have happened, will be something that Ofcom can count as a means to improve things.
All right, Matthew Howett from Ovum, thanks for joining me.